a very strong speaking community. Yeah, so this experience, and as a filmmaker, I will bring it into producing a series of video that we listed, and still taking more ideas in terms of what else can we produce for Maddie's class, for the AGS class platform in terms of content. They are going to be 5 to 7 minutes. And in this 5 to 7 minutes, it's not just like a regular documentary style I will be doing. It's deeper than that. It will be pedagogical videos where in the video you have to respond to the facts that why you're doing things, when do you do things, who is doing the things, and most of it will be in Mi'gmaq. For example, picking up sweet grass. Sometimes you just go there and pick up sweet grass, but for a child, you have to teach them. And not all the kids will be going to pick up sweet grass, so you have to bring that teaching, film it, and bring that into the classroom. So they will understand why we do that. Where do you do that? How to differentiate the different herbs that are in the woods, and how do you use it? Why do you use it? So all the aspects related to sweetgrass.
Okay. How will this project be used in the schools?
The intent of this program is to have to give these resources to the teachers, and the teacher will, after watching it, they can make two exercises in the classroom. And for example, in terms of sweetgrass, now we see through the video how do you pick up the sweetgrass. Let's do that, and they will serve as a guide in terms of to guide them to go into the field and pick up sweetgrass. But then there are other ideas also. Hunting, for example, how do you call a moose? How do you fold the tracks? How do you see the track? How do you differentiate the early tracks to late tracks, 2 days, 4 days, or maybe 5 days tracks? What do you do when a moose approaches? And all that you have to do is walking in the forest with people who understand, who can bring the moose calling, and so all this you have in this community so much experience in connecting to the woods that is not available at this time in the classroom, and that's one way to do it, because you have other also resources that will be used by school, by the teachers, but the videos is one of these resources that will be used by them.
So, as a language teacher, Maddie, do you see this project? How do you see it working for your classroom?
Well, when I first heard about this project, I got pretty excited because it actually made me think of the other day we went out with the kindergarten class to go ice fishing, and our students loved it. They were like, "Oh my God, can we come back again sometime?" And they were super engaged and really enjoyed it. So I was like, wow, I could make a whole unit out of this. Maybe, we could make our own rods for the children to use. I could bring in, some fishermen to come and, share with the students and give them some teachings. But with these video projects, maybe there would be a video on ice fishing, and I can, easily play that to the kids so they can see, because to give them that little information they would need before, we go out and do it. So I think it's a great idea. I think it's, and I see some of the topics he's going to cover, and it's just things that, I was really looking forward to teach, but maybe I'm not an expert in those fields. So we have these videos here to help us out and, use in the classroom.
So as you go along with these projects, as you're a teacher working in the classroom, what do you need help and support with in your work? Can community members help you? What can, because I don't think it's just brought in just into the classroom. I don't think it's just the school's responsibility. I think it's also like maybe community responsibility. So what do you think people can contribute to this type of work to keep moving forward in this direction?
Well, even when we were students at AGS, and I've always been hearing this, whether as a student, as a staff worker, teacher, anything like that, it takes a community to raise a child, and it's always been like that. And I still agree with that today. And as a teacher, I want to be teaching these things to my students. Maybe I want to teach them about hunting and fishing, but I'm not a hunter or a fisherman. So whenever we learn these things, I'm kind of learning along with the students also. So I'm not an expert. I need those experts, and that's where the community members come in. So it's great to, and we've been having a lot of amazing volunteers, willing to share their time and help with the students. And just to see more of that would be great, because, our community has a lot to offer. There's a lot of knowledge holders out there, and to have them come in and share with the students, I think that's wonderful.
Yeah, it's very interesting what you say. It takes a village to raise a child. But as I say, we should go deeper than that. It's the village and the land, because you people, the Mi'gmaq people and Aboriginal people, are connected to the land. So in the land, there's so many teachings, and the only way to understand the land is when you practice it. And the idea of this video is also to gather this understanding, these teachings, and transfer that to the kids. Because we are doing this video, for example, with the idea that if we don't do that today, in 30, 40 years, 50 years, what we will have as a practice. So it's a way to transfer the knowledge. It's a way to gather the knowledge that's available now, and to have it, to record it. And with the hope also, that people will be doing it more often than maybe we are doing now. That, for example, not many people you see trapping. Trapping also was part of the way of life in the old times, and you don't see that much. So that things like that probably will, I don't know how we will capture, but there are still knowledge in this community that you can capture. You talk to the knowledge holder, and you will film it. That's the intent.
And I totally agree with that, and it's a concept that I've been thinking more of lately, is that reconnection to the land and how important it is. Doing language work for a while, I used to just see it as, language as on its own, but I'm starting to realize it's interconnected with our culture. Our language is reflective of our land and vice versa. So it is important. It's very important to be reconnected to the land. In my past, working with students, whether it's my young little grade ones, or whether it was, up to grade 8, any age, I see the students thrive when they're outdoors, and I notice, the students who might struggle in the classroom, they thrive out there. They thrive outdoors. They all do, for every student. So why not do it more often? It's beneficial for those students. And, growing up, I was raised with Mi'gmaq values and language, but I kind of grown more connected to it as I got older. And I just feel way more confident in who I am as a Mi'gmaq person. And it's beautiful to see now, because you see that with our little ones. And I think it's because they're getting those teachings. And it's just wonderful to see that they're going to have that foundation when they're done with school and ready, to tackle the world and those types of things.
See all this, the series of videos that will be producing. For example, ice fishing, storytelling, traditional medicine, the Mi'gmaq creation story, cooking, salmon fishing, smoking salmon, and net making. So it's different skills that hopefully will have people to tell us how to do that. But behind the skills are the knowledge, and they're also thinking. It's a planning. It's a vision. And in our adult life, sometimes we ask ourselves, who are we? You ever have that moment when you ask yourself, who I am? And when you travel the world, people ask you who you are. And you have to tell them the story, who you are, who your family are, what your culture is. And we have to give that to the kids, that understanding of themselves. We have, first of all, we have to understand, we have to rationalize, we have to understand the vision of the nation, and then we transfer that to the kids. Because in one of these days, the kid will go to high school in Hamilton, maybe university in Montreal, Europe, or wherever they go in the world. And when people, they are curious, they say, where you come from? They say, well, I come from Listuguj, which is a small community. Mi'gmaq, what is that? And you have to explain to them. If I ask you today, explain to me what the Mi'gmaq is, how you will say that to me, how you explain that to me, or another person who doesn't know what's a Mi'gmaq. And if I had the opportunity to ask to some people, say, what a Mi'gmaq is? Well, they start looking for answers, start looking at, staring at the ceiling, and they start looking here and there, and say, here, this is this community. Now, if you go abroad and go in different contexts, if people ask you that, so how are you going to answer that? So you have to have that in your heart, you have to have it in your mind today, or at least if you don't have it, well, you start developing. That's the reason also these videos, because when you go outside, if people ask you the question, you will not go to Wikipedia or Google about your identity. You have to learn now. So my humble contribution will be these videos. So you also have books, you also have the audio, you have stories, direct story being told in the classroom by elders. So the videos are just one of the tools you will have available.
Yeah. So there's I know video work is quite the task, and it's a lot of work. I mean, this will be like a small piece of the what we're working towards. We're trying to develop curriculum here in our education, and this is just a small piece. But I'd like to ask you, Felix, maybe to describe one of you were talking about it yesterday, one of your little explorations in the woods with your bow. You went hunting.
Oh yes.
I thought it was cool.
I hunt with a group, and one of them is Ronnie and Lexi. And when you hunt with a bow, it's completely different than hunting with a rifle, because with the rifle you can shoot a certain distance, a very long distance. With a bow, you have to bring a moose very close, 15, 20, max 25 meters with a traditional bow we shoot with. And in order to do that, you have to track the moose. You have to walk in the forest. A lot of walking. It implies lots of walking to track. And if there are no fresh tracks, look somewhere else where the fresh tracks. If they're not there that morning or that afternoon, you come back to the morning after, because when you see tracks today, they will come back. But in order to do that, you have to walk a lot. So there were moments with exploring and seeing new places, and I have to stop. Ronnie will tell you that how many times I have to stop him and say, man, thank you for taking me to this place. I never knew that you can have beautiful places like this in the woods. Big trees, nice streams, and just beautiful, but I have to stop. And you have to understand this. In order to have that feeling, you have to really to send it, to feel it, in order to have that kind of expression. And he made me understand that, the forest is beautiful. He was a logger, yes, but at the same time, he understands this land. And I say, this territory, if you travel to Listuguj, there are so many places with Mi'gmaq names. So what is land? What this land, what these names are telling me? I feel sometimes so bad, you go to the forest, and it seems that the forest is talking to you in Mi'gmaq, and I can't understand. How here.
Don't know when let it go.
Great.
No, but I don't smoke.
Hey, didn't you guys make your own bows too? Did you forgot to mention?
Yeah, we make our own bows.
Really?
So, but this experience of being in the woods, hunting with this, also being occupying the land, living on the land, the time you spend there. So I hope can capture this teaching, with Ronnie, one of the guys that goes with us to transfer his understanding, his knowledge of the land, and also how he connects to the land. And he doesn't speak that much, but when he says something pertaining the land, I listen, even if it's in English. But I wish I could understand more in Mi'gmaq, so I can also understand your land.
Well, on a side note, someone told me a funny story yesterday. They had a meme about you, Felix, and it's you standing with a bow, saying, I hope Killy is listening. But it says, new boyfriend, new target.
Yeah, she posted it because I will screen her potentials.
I just thought that
Pretenders,
was
I
a
will
funny one.
screen so she have that. As a matter of fact, your brother used to say, you go to see him, be careful. He just post there.
Yeah. So, what's your feelings about this, Maddie? Because you guys are you're teaching the language in the classroom. So when you guys go ice fishing, when you guys go out on the land, are you with people that are using the language, and how do you think it's helping?
Well, I've been reflecting a lot about teaching outdoors for like the past year now, and I always had these questions. I'm like, okay, how am I going to assess them? How am I going to, make a lesson out of this? And like I mentioned before, Joyce has been helping me. But one of the things that I kind of focus on is like when we go out, look for those key words that we can identify in Mi'gmaq, So like when we go ice fishing, how do you say hook, Mingigan, right? Mkigan, yes, Walalan. So just kind of reinforcing those words when the kids are using it, okay, Dalawizikullapa. And I actually have like a video too, like we drilled a hole into the ground, or into the ice, to fish. And you notice like I think the tide was in, so like the water was going up and going down, going up and going down. So we were using words to like identify the water coming up, the water coming down.
Wachkuba and Mabak.
Wachkuba and Mabak. So we got the kids repeating after us too, and and my group especially, that's lovely. They use the language without prompt. So after a while, when they learn those words, they're using it when they're speaking to each other, when they're playing, and it's just
that's not something you can get in the classroom.
No,
get on the land.
It's giving you that hands-on experience. I could teach them those words in the class and they can learn it, but when they're learning it, right in front of them, it's gonna click. They're gonna remember it better. Those types of things. Yeah.
It's always nice to hear the young ones speak it. I always get a kick out of, sad to say, not so much around here, but like if you go to like a Big Cove, Escazone, and all these places, I mean, these kids are like, you walking in, like when we play hockey, you walking in and you hear the kids outside, shooting the ball around, shooting the puck around. They're just running in the outside there by the entrance, and they're all speaking Mi'gmaq.
Yeah.
It's like you stop and listen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's good to hear. Very nice to hear.
Community and Setil, Inu.
Yeah.
When I was there, I called my friend, and his name is Gilbert. Okay, somebody answered the phone. It's a little kid, but his boy was maybe 7 years old.
Yeah.
So I talked to him in French. I didn't know speak Inu. So he spoke to me back in Inu, and I spoke back to him in French. He spoke back again in Inu. And I understood him. I understood then that he only spoke Inu. He couldn't have a word of French.
Really?
And maybe he was 8 years old.
Wow.
That was just beautiful.
Yeah.
Wow.
You speak 3 languages, don't you? 3 or 4 languages?
2 languages, yeah.
3, right?
The thing we are doing this is because we have to nourish the kids.
Yes, for sure.
You have to nourish with the language, with the vision of the nationhood. Because it's obvious you have to understand your own people, you have to understand your own philosophy, and sometimes you don't look for that kind of answers at that age. But when we understand our own identity, that's what has to start building the kids with that. They will need it eventually. And the last few days, I'm going to the coffee shop across the bridge, and I stay with. I don't say the name because there's no free advertisement. You stay with a group of elders there, and it's interesting to listen to their stories.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah.
I really have I was talking to Peter Kapler. He was telling big stories about the time first when he was a little kid and taking care of the pigs and Felix and the chicken and the horses, and the time when the people were not allowed to drink, and then if you drink, you will go to jail.
Really?
The times, the 40s, and the time when the people in this community, with all the rights you have here, at that time was not recognized. So if people got a moose, the Indian agent will send the police, seize your moose, and put you to jail for illegal hunting.
Really?
I didn't know that. It was just amazing.
Wow.
But this is especially, I say to Peter Keckler, I say, Peter, thank you for the story. We're going to have that on camera. So eventually I will go to him. But just the thing I'm saying, mention this because in Campbellton today, you go there, you see English everywhere.
Right.
But when you go to that coffee shop, you see a bunch of people, a group there.
Is that the one at the Civic Center?
Civic Center and the one in
the big one?
The big one.
Okay.
The one.
Yeah.
It's a group of people there.
Yeah, it's always
You
same.
You enter at that coffee shop and you listen to a group of people talking Mi'gmaq and laughing in Mi'gmaq. My goodness, that's amazing. So I start sitting with them and listen to them, and they switch for me to understand. Huh? They switch to English. Don't do that.
Do they buy you coffee every once in a while?
I wish Ray, if you're listening to that.
So what does a laugh in Mi'gmaq sound like?
I don't know. I don't know. Must be a belly laugh.
It's a big group talking Mi'gmaq every day. That is just.
Yeah, you can't sit there if you don't understand.
One day, these kids, you will see them in town speaking Mi'gmaq. That will be just beautiful.
Oh, really?
I mean, I think it's important to have this. This is obviously what we're doing it for, is for curriculum, to bring it into education. But I think it's a community project. I think it takes everyone around us.
Yeah.
So we do need people's help. We need everyone around us to be a part of this project. So take note if you guys want to.
I find that, like you said they're in their own comfort zone where they'll sit there and talk. But if you brought them in here and you put a headphone on them and a headset and put a microphone in, totally like this, it's too distracting for them. It'd be better like what you said, if you could be there, maybe not a camera, but maybe just a tape recorder or something that'll pick up their conversation. And that would be nice, and then put it on the air if it's okay with them. I've thought of doing that too, but I'd rather have him in here as well. So because the only guy I guess so far is Kenny, and it's like he's supposed to call me this morning at 11. Actually, he said call me. I told him call me at 8. Well, that's 4 my time. I said, oh yeah, that's right. He's out in California, so I'm gonna end up putting him on the air around 11. So. He's a natural when it comes to speaking Mi'gmaq. He's good to have on the air. He'll give you a little bit of humor. He'll give you a little bit of history. He touches on everything.
Teachers love it too. We gather around the radio sometimes whenever we can and listen to it.
Yeah, when he comes in, he's like just gotta kind of monitor him and.
What here for Listuguj, stay a few years until the school will start. The idea of the school has started to grow up until they decide to build the school.
Yeah.
My goodness, what a big movement today. What I saw then and what you have today. You have your own teacher, you have your own school, you have your own curriculum. Most of it, is for sure is French or English. I mean, provincial decided, but little by little you add in Mi'gmaq content, and we need to do more. One of the reasons is it's based on, for example, in my experience, it's in beliefs. When I ask a kid, could be here or can be somewhere else, I say, who are the first men or the first woman in the world? And everybody, like
Adam and Eve.
Okay, all right. What about Gluskap? Oh, Gluskap, yeah, that's a legend. Listen, since when Gluskap, your own story, your own creation story, becomes a legend, a myth, and somebody else's myth or history become yours. So we have to decolonize, and decolonization is a big movement across indigenous communities, indigenous nations across in this continent. And decolonize take a lot of thinking, especially a lot of steps, strong steps being to walk towards brought decolonization. So also the intent of this material that we are going to produce have an element of decolonization. So teach the things that is yours with a less filter of the Western society.
We'd have to do a whole other show to talk about this. And I think Maddie did her master's on similar ideas like this. That would be a whole entire show.
Oh yeah, I could talk for hours. Got a class to teach. But yeah, it's true, and I've been reflecting a lot about decolonization, and it's difficult. I think it requires like constant self-reflection because we're surrounded by it. We live it. We've been raised by it. It's, so it takes a lot of constant self-reflection, going away from, filling in that regular, like as a teacher, that regular education framework, and, let's break it down and build it back up to fit, who we are as Mi'gmaq people. Let's rebuild it our own way. Yeah.
So I guess we're going to kind of close it down, but I just wanted to bring it up again that we are asking people in the community to come out, show what they have, teach us their knowledge. If they're on the land, don't be shy. Contact us at the education. I'm sure the teachers would be more than happy to be doing, to have a variety of activities to do. So we'd be very grateful for you if you could share your knowledge. And I just want to thank Felix, Atencio, and Maddie Metallic. They've been very great today. And also Floyd for hosting us.
That went very fast.
It's already 30 minutes.
Yeah, that's so fast. We need a couple hours.
Next Friday.
But anyway, I imagine we all have something to do, Yeah. So anyway, I want to thank everybody for coming in. I always look forward to these talk show stuff, and because it's something different for me, and it's live, and now we have Felix here, and Felix is he's full of knowledge of everything, it's so it's great to have you in the house. Actually, it's the first time you come in here, right? He doesn't like anything to be made about him. Like he's like one of those guys. He's the camera guy. He's behind the camera.
You're the star of the show today.
Yeah, you did good, man. You did real good. Yeah, I'm gonna have to have him in here more often. Then that's the case. Yeah. So anyway, are we out or?
I guess we're out.
All right then.
We'll see you guys next week. We'll see you guys next week. Thank you. Walalio.
All right, we're gonna shut her down. I'm gonna turn the mics off and. All right, we're gonna get back to the regular programming here. We're having Act Up Friday. Actually, I gotta play a song right here so I can say goodbye to my friends here. And as soon as I can get this thing going, help, please, someone. All right, here we go. It's off anyway. Oh, no wonder. There.